Yeah.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Gary Harakasi, Chair of the Murray City Council. It is September 12th, 2023. Here for the Committee of the Whole meeting at Murray City Hall. Have all council members present, so welcome to all of you. Everyone who made it primaries. Next one, into the general election. So, we will start with approval of the minutes for a special joint meeting that we had with Mill Creek August 21st, 2023, and then Committee of the Whole on August 22nd, 2023. Are there any changes or updates to the minutes?
None that I saw.
Right, with that, I would take a motion to approve.
I make a motion to approve the minutes
We have a second?
of the special joint meeting of August 21st, 2023.
Then Committee of the Whole.
The Committee of the Whole, yes.
And Rose Bobby, you second?
Yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We'll move on to our discussion items. First, we have Parks and Recreation Department report from Mr. Kim Sorensen.
Hello, Council, Mayor. So what I thought today we would talk about was the projects that we have in Parks and Recreation. As you know, we have a number of projects that are ongoing and upcoming. So the first slide is our playground that was put in at Murray Park. And if you've not heard about this playground, I would be shocked because the citizens and it was designed for 5 to 12-year-old children, and they are loving it. In fact, I usually get the work out between 7:30 and 8 o'clock, and during the summer there were building the PPE to work using the playground. So some things that were ironic to this playground that we haven't done in the past is one, we put in the shade structure, which has made the playground usable during the hot months and during the heat of the day. We also fenced the entire playground with 2 gates, which parents have told us works really well because they can now sit on the bench and not worry too much about where their child is or him or her running out into the playground. And then, of course, it was very age-specific. So we, as you remember, we got a $100,000 TRCC grant for part of the playground. That has been reimbursed, and we're completely done with that grant, and that'll be important in one of our projects that I'll talk about in a minute. The other thing with this playground, excited about this playground, is it's used, most of the playground is recycled material, including ocean waste, textile and plastics for the posts, and then even food packaging waste. So this sign is being built right now, and it'll be put up in the playground to let the citizens know that we've done that.
That's awesome. That's great.
The downside to that, and I suspect it'll change as time goes on, is because we use especially the waste from the ocean, the colors, this is the color that it is. So I like the color, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
The Harakasi girls are ecstatic about it. They had a lot of fun.
The Harakasi girl, yes.
They did. They played on it all night out against Kramer, our group night or whatever. They were there the whole time.
Yeah, no, it's a great playground. We also had one other playground that was funded in this year's budget, and that is the Valley Center Playground. Valley Center is an interesting park. It's located west of Murray High School off American Avenue. There are no parking. There's 2 trails that go into it. It really serves the neighborhood there, but the playground was old and needed to be replaced. So we've heard from residents all around Valley Park. There was a lot of things with the playground, and we put in swings there. Next one we talk about is the museum. Have you noticed the museum addition?
Yep.
I was hoping you'd say no, but.
Okay, no.
So this is the addition. We were really worried about what the addition would look like, whether it would be a short home, and we think it turned out great.
Great compliment.
Yeah, I think it's, the reason, well, the addition included 4 restrooms, all ADA accessible, a Lulu, which is basically an elevator, and then we also went in and painted and put in new flooring at the old ballroom area for our museum exhibits, and it looks horrible right now because we've just moved from City Hall.
Oh, wow.
So the reason that we needed to put in this addition was to bring the mansion up to today's standards as far as ADA and restroom facilities. So what this does is it'll allow us to put exhibits and use the second floor. So the mansion is 4 floors. But we'll be able to use the second floor for the community. They'll have full access to the second floor. Upper floors we could use for offices, and then the employees would have to come down to the second floor to meet with the general public. So we also Lori Edmonds took the funding that we had for the theater and leveraged that, applied for TRCC money, and we received a little over $800,000. So we're in the process right now of designing and getting ready to renovate the rest of the building. What does that mean? So the stairs will all be new. The railing, of course, would be new. The block. So originally, John Cahoon owned the mansion. He's built it in. They started in 1889 and finished in 1898. Finished in 1903. He owned what is currently Interstate Brick. So if you look at the brick, it's in great condition, probably because he had access to the best. And it's 2 layers thick. Behind this brick is block. And it's easy to look at the brick. The addition was done in 1984, and the brick on the addition is in not much better shape than what was done in 1900. So, but we'll also go in and regrout and clean up the brick. And I'm telling you all this so maybe you'll understand. We've got $800,000 from, a little over $800,000 from TRCC, and then some money left from the city's budget. We're a little over $1 million in the project. We're hopeful, we believe that'll be enough, but we want to do it because it's a pretty cool building.
Yeah, don't they have to sandblast it and then?
Not, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And here's the foundation. There's some work on the foundation that needs to be done. Some stairs, the railing, of course, will be done here. The concrete. Some more stairs with the railing, and I show this picture because the railing above the patio area, believe it or not, that's the original railing. We have been working with our building people. We believe we're going to be able to restore that railing and leave it in place, but we'll need to, the railing coming up down the stairs has been changed and not original, so we'll need to bring that up to today's standards.
So it's gonna be ready for the mayor to move in?
Yeah.
If the mayor wants to move in, we can make that work.
Maybe you.
Yeah, by myself.
Throw in the weight.
So,
Yeah.
you know, so this, if you have a home, which I think most of you do, and you have a breaker box, this is the breaker box in that home.
No.
It's called knob and tube.
Do you guys still have knob and tube?
It is still in use in that building.
Wow.
Which is cool, but also very scary.
Very dangerous.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
can't see it, but the little wires, there's 6 of them, the little wires there, that's the fuse. And the previous owner had things like paper clips in between the fuse. And so that's a big part of the renovation, is to bring the electrical up to today's standards. And we will leave this open for an exhibit because it is pretty cool. They quit using the knob and tube in about 1935-ish. So
It doesn't sustain anything that we use now.
no. The heating, you can see the radiators. The heating is an old boiler system. I wish I would have taken a picture, but I didn't get one. There's a boiler in the basement that has ran off natural gas. It's actually fire burning. And the first time you see it, most people are nervous and want to leave the building. But there is no air conditioner, so we'll bring the HVAC up to today's standards as best we can.
Are you gonna remove the radiator?
No.
You're gonna keep it there?
No. Our hope is to be able to put in a new forced air system and still continue to use this system so that people can touch it and see how it used to work.
That's how we warmed our middles.
Interesting.
And this room was, this is where they used to prepare meals. It's not a kitchen, but they would prepare, lard room is what they call it.
The lard?
Lard room. And so we'll renovate the rooms like this to show what a lard room used to look like. And you can see back in the back the plumbing. There's some plumbing that needs to be updated as well, upgraded as well. Sorry. Any questions on? So the one thing I have learned with the mansion and now the theater is it costs a lot of money to restore old buildings. But I applaud the city council and mayors and those before you because I think we're doing the right buildings. And the council looking at that hall. Those, yeah, are real to a certain extent.
Yeah.
Yeah. Those were the ones we should have done. So, Murray Theater. So the sign that is in this picture is down. I know there was some citizen comments on social media, different things about why the sign down. Well, we're building a new sign that will look just like the one that was there in 1930. A lot of people thought that was the original sign, but it wasn't. You know that we purchased the market to the east of the theater, and we are very lucky we did for many reasons. The project is very tight. There's one of the doors that you can get in, the other one's off of State Street. We're using the market now for staging and different things. With the market? Good question. When the theater's up and done, we'll tear the market down and build a parking lot. It's not gonna be a lot, 25 to 30 stalls. But it's 25 to 30 stalls.
Right, which we don't have currently.
Yeah.
Yeah, it could be for the.
So we've obviously had many unknowns with the theater. One of them was we knew that there was groundwater. We just didn't realize how much groundwater was. So this tube here goes down 10 feet. There's a couple of different pumps in there that pump water through this filtration system and then into the gutter.
How much is it pumping?
Yeah, we figure it's pumping about a gallon a minute. And the engineers are putting together a dewatering system because of how much water is underneath there. We need to put in a permanent dewatering system so that we don't have water coming.
Is it because of the old plumbing and all of that?
It's the water table.
Yeah. We have more water here than we do some places next to the creek in Marine Park. So this shows it again. Another issue that we ran into was two sections of the wall on the north and south side of the wall. You can see the dirt is filtering through the block. It shouldn't be the case. We're not sure why this is, whether they put the block in and then cut some of the surface off, or whether somewhere down the road that they cut some of the surface in. But there was two areas where we had to pull the block off and blocks. So this is a picture showing that down. There's a picture of the block down. Next to it, you might say, well, that doesn't look good either, but the whole wall will be shotcreted. And the problem with shotcreting around the area that we redid was the shotcrete wouldn't adhere to that part of the wall. So, and that is the outside of the new wall. We felt very good at what the engineer came up with as far as replacing the wall. It was, for a few weeks there, we were very nervous about how much of the cost and what the impact would be. So, this shows you digging the basement. There will be some restrooms and a green room and then a lift down below the stage. You can see that all of the dirt goes out that little hole that I showed you a minute ago. And then we have Murray, oh, sorry, any questions with the theater?
Yeah, from a budget perspective, where we started and where we are at today,
Great
what is
question.
the difference in cost?
We started at about, I should have had the exact numbers, but I'm within 100,000. We started at about 7.9 million. We're up around 8.2 million right now. We're okay. You budgeted 10 million, so we're still okay.
Originally, we thought it was gonna be 3 million, do you remember that?
Then 5.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Then the recession.
Would be if we bid it right now.
It was actually,
So
I'm just ecstatic.
our contractor keeps telling me, I'm not a real patient person, so I'd like to see it done. He keeps telling me as soon as we get the concrete in, it'll take off. We need to get it just to figure out before they can pour concrete, because it'll be underneath the wall.
It's so crazy that we built that. there
Well, yeah,
over
it's, the water was, yeah.
And I was, when we went over, I asked Jeff, I said, how did this building not fall during the earthquake? And he said, I have no clue.
So I asked that question to to the engineers and our architect, and this is exactly what they told me, because it was built wishy-washy. And I said, what does that mean? And they go, oh, the building's actually been just moving. And that's why we have some of the cracking we have, but because of the way that it was built so poorly, that's why it stood up. Just moved,
But
which,
that's
Once
what
we
they,
make it good, it's coming.
but
yeah,
that's what they did with the tabernacle, right? They went in and put in beams so that it can continuously move, so it doesn't collapse. Yeah.
So you expect the remaining 2 million in the budget to cover what is left?
right now, we see no reason not to believe it.
Every time Kim calls me,
Mayor won't even take my,
I can't take your calls because you're going to tell me it's more for the theater or something. So luckily, he's been going, he thought this was going to be close to $500,000. It was like 35,000.
all the walls are wall.
So my next question is will it be earthquake? Like, will
Yes.
it have the beams and, okay.
Okay, anything else? So this is a simple project. This is basically the footings that were poured a few weeks ago for the Murray Park maintenance building that'll house the equipment. This is the old playground at Riverview Park. And we have, so what we've done,
Get out of here. Is that what they're gonna get?
that's the plan for the new playground.
See, closer. Oh, that's. Thanks.
So here's where Riverview Park is. We have applied for a TRCC grant. You might remember when during budget time, we said we would apply for a grant for Riverview and a grant for Woodstock. TRCC changed the rules on us. You can only have 3 grants out at one time. We have a grant for the theater, we have a grant for the mansion, and we have a grant for the first playground I showed you. So we were lucky, we fast-tracked the first playground and got it reimbursed before their deadline for PRC application. So we've applied for a $400,000 grant to help with Riverview Park.
And what do we expect this to cost?
We're expecting about $800,000.
And this was one of the new parks, or one of the
Yeah.
the one that we had to bring up to our standards. And so we're putting all this. So they have a reason to give us.
Well, it's not surprising that the county staff has given us a thumbs up.
Right.
So there's I think it was $5.7 million in applications for TRCC. They haven't given the exact number, but they're saying there's about 3 million available. It's 5.7 million. We are hoping we will get the grant. If we get that, what it'll do is we'll put in lights. Well, we'll take the tennis courts and convert them to pickleball courts. Put in lights on the pickleball courts. Right now we're hoping we can put in solar lights perimeter of the park. We found some solar lights that seem to work well in settings. They're bright for the first 2 or 3 or 4 hours of the night, and then they dim, and then about 2 a.m., 3 a.m. they go out. But the poles are such that as lights develop, we can change the lights out. So this will be a good part to test. And then the pavilion will be left, but there will be a new roof, paint, and sidewalks will be repaired. But what that meant was we were not able to apply for a grant for Woodstock. So the thought is next year, we'll do the things that have to be done in Woodstock this year, and then next year we'll apply for a TRCC grant or just look at other things that with Woodstock Park. Of the 2 parks, this was the one in the worst repair. So,
What are the poles for that are on the brownish and the dark blue?
those are spinners.
Oh,
So if you haven't done that at Murray Park, Pam, I would suggest you try it.
okay. We'll do it during the power.
I've done it once, and it's good.
They're really fun. Put Grace and Al on it.
There you go. Oh, that looks so great.
So let me tell you the color that we chose for here. We had a resident come to us when we received these parks that lives next to the park. And she was not happy that we were even going to do anything with their little park. She liked the playground. She liked the wood chips. We met her down at the park, talked to her about reasons for pouring in place over wood chips. She quickly understood that. But then she suggested that we stay with the same color tones because that was what they were used to, and they liked the neighbors like looking out and not having a bright green or blue on their playground. So we followed her suggestions or the neighbor's suggestions, and that's why we came up with the colors that we came up with there.
It won't get as hot either. It's
Probably not. That's true.
Yeah.
And you have a little bit of green space.
Yeah.
Or will
Is
that
that
be
turf?
AstroTurf?
No, that's actually poured in place. It's just different color. The poured in place rubber surfacing.
Would be great.
Oh,
It's cool. Looks great.
So Creekside Cottage, that is the armory. That's the new name of the armory. Creekside Cottage.
oh,
That is out right now for bids for contractors to build on Creekside Cottage. We opened the bids a week from today. We are anticipating, you budgeted $5 million for that project. We're anticipating that it's about where it'll be. It's gone through the building permit process. We're waiting to select the contractor, and then it'll be ready to get a building permit and be able to start on that. Probably October, and then I think they'll be able to work through the winter on that project.
will it be the same thing that you showed us the designs where it could be big and then, or you can divide it kitchen. Okay.
Yep,
The same-
the garage doors will have sliding glass doors that you can open
And which
during
look out
summer
into the
months.
park.
Yeah. It'll be nice.
Such a nice venue.
Yeah, it'll be beautiful.
Yes.
You guys
So you wanna make sure
you
the
need
lighting room or.
suggestion of, you know.
On the kitchen? So the direction the kitchen ended up with was, and maybe really some direction from that's catering rather than full-fledged kitchen.
Because there's differences whenever we go into spaces for our business, we're limited in the table surfaces. And table surfaces are important when you are catering, because if you're catering, you're doing handheld catering, yeah, we will be, yes.
I'm happy to show you the
Yeah.
plans.
Yeah, because that is always something that, and you can capitalize on that as well.
I like
That we have a struggle with in venues, when we go to venues. So, yeah.
We'll show you the plan.
Yeah, I would love to. I know.
So the last thing that I wanted to talk about, and may take a little bit longer, is the Murray Park study. So as you may remember, during budget time, we talked about doing a feasibility study or a study on Murray Park. specifically the pool area, the old ice rink area, and that playground, and Ken Price and parking. So we hired MGA Design Studio to put together that study. We met with them one time, and we really need to give them, they'll put together 2 or 3 different options and then cut them out as well. But it would be nice to be able to give them direction from, and I talked with the mayor today, and he gave me the permission to ask you for your ideas. We know you can't vote on it today, but your ideas. So let me just tell you what we're thinking. So you have the outdoor pool, and we talked about the water table at the outdoor pool during budget. We had water design come in, and they told us the water table is not a problem. That's just normal. Don't worry about the location of the outdoor pool. So that area could or couldn't be used to maintain the outdoor pool. We talked about splash pads. So the question for this group is, do you see a splash pad being part of the pool in that people pay to get into the pool and the splash pad area? Do you see it being on its own? And there's pros and cons. If it's part of the pool, we can use the same filtration system and staffing, and it costs a lot less, especially in long-term maintenance. So with the pool currently is not leaking water.
Wait till winter.
Our plan was to drain the pool and re-caulk the joints. We're not going to do that because it's not leaking. That doesn't mean that it's not going to leak in 5 months, but right now we feel pretty good about the pool. If it stopped leaking, who knows how many years we'll be able to hang on to the pool. So pool with a splash pad or two separate things there. The old ice rink area. So the old ice rink area, there's been talk about an ice ribbon or an ice rink. Talk about a splash pad there. Both of those are costly up front and then costly to maintain, but they're great for citizens and residents. Or a destination playground. Destination playground would be a large playground that attracts people from distances to come and play on it. Or maybe something else at the old ice rink. And then of course Ken Price Ballpark. What do we do at Ken Price Ballpark? Do we put the ballpark back in? I think that probably is one option. However, if we do that, the school district uses the field about 70% of the time. It seems like they should be ponying up if we're going to build a ballpark.
And the pool.
Or do you take the outdoor pool and put it over where Ken Price is, and then you don't lose a year of the outdoor pool being closed down? Or is there other ideas? So that's a lot to digest or talk about, but we'd love to hear your direction and thoughts on it.
Where does the water come from for the splash pad? How does that work?
So there's different ways you can do that. One is the least likely way is to just use culinary water. That's not a good option.
And how many gallons?
Yes, a lot.
And that's currently what they do up at Mountain View Parking on Wood Heights.
Is that right?
Correct.
The other option is to run the water through a filtration system, chlorinate it, and then into the splash pad. That's what most of them do. The third option is to run culinary water through the splash pad and then put it in a large holding tank and pump it out that night and irrigate the lawn with it.
So water the park with the water from the splash pad, so we wouldn't be using additional water.
Which is not a bad way to go, especially with Murray Park. It would cost us more up front, but
Like how much? And how long would we be able to use the splash pad as opposed if we had, a wonderful jungle gym or whatever they're called? We could use that for year round pretty much, and then the splash pad.
Not during the winter months.
good point. Good point. Yeah, you would,
I mean,
the splash, well, currently, most splash pads open Memorial Day and close on Labor Day. Whereas you're right, a playground, you're using certainly during the spring and fall months more, and even sometimes during the winter. And the maintenance on a playground is a lot. And the upfront cost is a lot.
So no, there is that playground right next to the current.
Yes, which is.
A pretty significant playground.
It's a big playground, yeah. And that playground would be earmarked to be changed, so whatever we do with it.
All I know is that I have heard from residents, I've been knocking doors, that they are highly interested in this, having a splash pad in Murray City Park. It has been across the board. I've not heard one negative thing come out of anyone's mouth. And they love the idea of it holding water and then that water being used to water the park, because what a perfect way to, one, not have to have to add the chlorine to the water. It just goes through and gets you. So I have only heard positive things come out, and people are surprised we don't have one.
And I have two in
at
my
this
district,
point.
Splash pads are popular.
very much so.
extreme.
And I haven't heard a thing, but I still think it's wasteful. I think it's wasteful to only be able to use it for a short time, compared to the cost. And also, you're gonna still waste a lot of water, even though,
Yeah. Well, my
You have
question,
evaporation and
so I have a
So,
question about
that's my concern.
currently, how many times are we watering the park?
so it depends on the time of year, but during the hot summer months, we try and water every other day.
Everyone.
Because the park was built in the 70s, the irrigation systems are not very good quality. The ground underneath it is not great, and you'll see yellow areas in the park. Ideally, we used to water every night until we're trying to conserve. And we're doing it about every other night,
Yeah.
and it's working.
So my question to you, and we're using culinary water to water
We're
the
using
park.
culinary water to water.
So you just said that the splash pad we would have a filtration system and then we would put it back into the park?
So if we went to that option, the water would go through the splash pad and then go into a holding tank. It wouldn't have to be filtered.
Okay.
And be sucked out at night with a pump and water from the park.
And it would be called secondary at that point,
It
or
would then become secondary water.
Kind of like the
then-
golf course.
Well, our golf course uses storm water, but they're
kind of,
pumping, you're right, they're
they're
pumping it
pumping
into
it.
their system.
Yeah.
I mean, it's all poopy water.
Sort of. This would be better
And how
quality
many-
water than the golf course.
How many gallons do we already water the park? Like, how many gallons do we use to water the park now?
I would have to
'Cause I'm
find that number,
curious.
but the number would blow you away. We're probably
Well, I'm sure.
talking, we're probably talking 500,000 gallons every couple
Well,
days.
I'm just curious what the difference would be in terms, like, is having a splash pad gonna be less water? And it's gonna be enough to.
Oh, would it be enough to water the park?
Right.
No. But it would,
That's- But it would help conserve that.
Yeah, we would look at the areas that are close
Because if
by.
it was more, I think I would fall under,
Yeah,
with
I see what
Diane.
you're saying.
do you know what I mean?
If you have excess
Yeah.
water.
Mhm. If we have
Yeah,
excess
I
water.
don't see you having excess water.
Tim, wonder if we put the splash pad in with the pool, would we still be using a lot of water
So
if
you
it's
put
in the
it-
pool?
If you put it in with the pool, then I would think that we would run it through the pool's filtration system and recycle the water.
Would it be
Filter it.
using a lot more water if it's in the pool area, or?
You can use the same amount.
Same.
Okay.
Yeah,
We just have now gone into the realm of capitalizing and earning money off of a splash pad to pay for that water. But the use of the water is still gonna be the same.
Right, but you would have to pay to go in to use the splash pad.
and that's a question I'd love to hear. Do you want the splash pad to be charged, or do you, if we were to do a splash pad, or is it free?
my opinion would be no. I mean, that would be consistent with the other municipalities. We're trying to incentivize people to stay here in Murray, and I know that there are a lot. And as I'm seeing, again, knocking in these neighborhoods and seeing the turnover that we're having, it's young families moving in with kids at this point, and I think that would be incentive to keep them in Murray, purchasing in Murray, living in Murray, recreating in
Well, and
Murray.
they could go to the pool and then after getting done with the pool.
Or if they can't
splash
go to the
pool,
pool that day, they
still
can
have
go to
it.
the splash pad.
I mean, I guess I'm not hearing constituents saying they want a splash pad. And so my biggest concern is the conservation of water and where we're at with the state. Yes, we had a great water year, but what is that gonna look for the future? And is it gonna be cost effective for citizens to have to pay for this? I mean, essentially, we're gonna have to pay for it somehow. And I think I would love for it to be available for free, but I'm okay with saying we have other cities that are doing it and we don't have to do it.
How's Mill Creek doing it? Because they have a splash pad, right? With
They
their
have a
ice
small
skating
one.
rink and the roller
Yeah.
skating rink. and-
It's really, really
Yeah.
small. And I guess that's also the other thing to consider is do we need a huge spout? Like, do we need a gateway splash pad? I don't think
I don't
so.
know. That's what I'm asking. Or does, throw something out that's really different. Do we need would we rather have a splash pad and not a pool? So you like the pool?
We gotta have a pool. Well, that's
And then
maybe.
what about
Nice
nice?
to do the splash pad ice rink combination.
There is a way to do a splash pad. I think it's costly, but there is a way. And
Because then it could be, well, then
and
it could be used
maybe
year
we
round.
should have Brenda weigh in on,
Well, right now, we're just looking at options and getting assessments, right?
Yeah. It's hard to ask citizens, hey, let's bring your taxes. To continue the service if it's not gonna be. Yeah, I don't know. I have a hard time with this one. I love the idea of a splash pad. But I also love the idea of it being like tiny.
small splash.
Not no, that tiny's fine. It's too
Put
small.
words in your mouth, but
Well-
if you have a small splash pad and then it's surrounded or also has a playground around it. So the splash pad's used during the summer and then your playground's open during the other months.
Yeah, I don't know. This one's a hard one for me because, like I said, I haven't been hearing it from constituents. And maybe now I will, which would be great, but.
What about a dog park?
I've heard that as well.
I don't have a
I've
dog,
heard that more than I've heard.
dog park.
but a dog park,
Never heard splash.
Yeah,
I've heard dog parks, but I haven't heard a lot of people say dog parks in Murray Park. And if you look at our master plan a few years ago, dog parks was one ways down the list.
Okay.
Not that a dog park wouldn't be great, I just don't know.
and
Well, the softball field is one that we're not looking at.
Well, at this point, we're actually at, we probably need to move forward at this point. So Kim, I think what we can do is give you, we can have the council all provide you their feelings about this and we can move on from there.
Yeah,
Okay?
that works, and
give us a lot to think about.
But it's gonna be useful.
Time's up.
But you still.
I just want, and I know you all know this, but I just sit and watch what Kim presented today, and I have a hard time understanding when I hear people say it. It's not a law, but you need to restore more things. We've got the
Yeah.
theater,
yeah.
the armory, the Townsend home that we're moving, the mansion. I think they'd be hard pressed to keep saying that because we are doing that.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
I just don't get it when I hear, and it's not a lot, but it's just a few where I'm thinking, I don't understand, we are doing a lot.
And the Whitechapel.
Yeah, yeah, and we're doing, we haven't, this is the most we've done in
Yes.
this forever.
Yes.
And you're right about that. And I said that as well. And I think we have to remember, I mean, it comes on the backs of our taxpayers, really, is at the end of the day. And I hear, yeah, and I hear the other side is we're investing in the right parts of where we need to invest. Yeah, and not necessarily we need to invest in everything, but we need, I think what has happened, at least in my perspective and what I've been hearing is we haven't communicated what we are willing and not willing to do. And we haven't communicated that, but we're doing a good job of that now. And I will say it's come a long ways, but I think everything you guys are doing is great, and I think even sharing that information that we have today, like, I think it's all helpful. And even bringing, was it Bob? Not Bellinger, but the other guy who taught us how to like seal our windows and whatnot.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I think that was a great workshop. And so we are doing things, definitely.
I applaud the council and mayor and council of mayors before you. We're doing a lot, but it's because of planning that we're able to do this. And I think the citizens are.
Baseball field, really quick. If the school district's using 70% of the softball field, baseball field, whatever you wanna call it, could they invest in that, or are they expecting us to take care of it?
Well, we are definitely,
That's a question we're gonna ask.
we are meeting with them.
Because I know there's a baseball field in my district
Right.
that they use a lot.
Yeah.
And so why would they need the one here if they're using the one that's near my home?
Well, high school doesn't use the one near your home. That's Babe Ruth, and then we also rent it out.
The one that says Murray on it?
Yeah, if you were to ask the high school people,
Oh,
they'd say
I
campus is a lot better. And it is a lot nicer field.
It's told us that we couldn't play on it when we took the kids out for gym because the school owned,
Over at Willow Pond?
no, Riverview.
Oh, Riverview, those are softball fields.
Well,
Oh, you're right, the girls softball.
it's this.
I'm sorry, Pam. You're way ahead of me, I wasn't following you. Yeah, it's a softball field.
I do.
It's
we
two
do-
different sports.
I'm gonna throw this in there, but I know that the world's like little, what is it? Like Little League World Series doesn't have a location in the state of Utah.
Twice. That was a big paper. It was fun.
It's big.
That's a long way.
And so I'm just saying it's a cost revenue opportunity.
But it's interesting,
Yeah.
baseball at Babe Ruth age, which is 12 years old through 18, the numbers are way down. But our Little League are way down, which is 9 to 12, but the city's Pee Wee League, which starts at 6 or 7, the numbers are way up. So I'm not sure why they play Pee Wee and then.
Because you have dads who are my generation who all played, and now their kids are playing,
Yeah.
which is where we're transitioning.
And then they get old enough to say, I don't want to play, maybe that's it.
Maybe, I don't know. But yeah, thank you.
I just have one thing to add. I wanted to staff over at the senior center because it's National Senior Center. And so they had a celebration last night and it was amazing. They did one, yeah,
It's well attended.
we went to, yeah, there was 130 or 160 between, I
They
can't
are great
remember.
events.
And it was so well done, and that staff worked their hands off. They just did a great
They do a
job.
great job.
I mean, and everything ran wonderfully. So you're
Thank you.
compliment to
Yeah.
them.
And
They're
I won't say too much, but next week you're going to hear from a consultant about doing a senior center library. And that's probably what the mayor's talking about. All of this costs.
And Brenda says, it's just money, hey,
And Brenda's still in her chair right now, right?
Find it, Brenda.
Anyway, I just
Thank you.
wanted to let you know, they
Thank
did
you.
it. So,
All right, we're gonna move forward to the number 2, discussion on the resolution approving and authorizing the execution of an interlocal cooperation agreement with various cities relating to the conduct of the Community Development Block Grant Program, Emergency Solutions Grant Program, and the Home Investment Partnership Program. And Jeff, let's present.
Remember, we've been through this before, like this last meeting.
Yeah.
Exactly. Since that meeting, Harriman was one of those cities that got a letter saying that they're entitled in the city if they wanted to. And they decided to pull out of this particular agreement. And so that's the basis for the amendment of the agreement. One of the parties, there was also some language that was proposed by the HUD attorney that allows us just to renew automatically. But basically, that's what happened. So in your packet, you will have read that 4 cities received this letter. One of those was Murray. And we've seen the options, and then we still believe that it's best to stay with the county, defer the entitlement status.
Can you explain that to me a little bit?
Or
The number 4 on this was deferring status
Mhm.
and continue to participate as part of the urban county.
So that's what we're suggesting we do. You know, because then what that means is we're not going to accept the entitlement status from HUD.
Oh, okay.
We're just going to defer that.
Okay.
And as long as we keep that population above 50, we can always go back later,
Yep,
years later.
Okay, that's right, all right.
Yeah, that's what that means.
Okay, got it.
And part of that is, the county also needs cities to be able to qualify as an urban county.
Oh, okay.
And this late in the day and the amount of work that would require for a city to go on its own, it's formidable.
And it looks like a good group of cities, towns,
Yeah.
magnets.
Thank you. This will be coming up. If you just want to mention it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to number 3, discussion on an ordinance amending the fiscal year 2023-2024 budget. Brenda Moore presenting.
I just have a quick little presentation on this. This is my amendment number 1, and if you read the letter, it's huge. What that is, and why that is because the state of Utah only allows us to do budgets 1 year. So we're in the middle of the construction season on June 30th. The projects that you approved in the 2023 budget, some of them had to wait until spring, they're now being done. And so what we do is we just roll forward all of the funds they haven't spent, and then they spend it again. So what happens at the end of every year? So let's just go really quick. This budget amendment has a few grants. It has the reconciled changes in benefit budgets due to health insurance changes made during open enrollment. Because we do the budget in March, we have open enrollment in May. The budget has, especially in small departments, if somebody goes from family to single or single to family, that can be a $16,000 change. And some of the smaller budgets just can't handle that and not hold the budget. We're rolling forward some restricted funds. All the projects in progress, and then a few new items that I put in there. And this is kind of a sample of how it works. The theater project that we just talked about, the fiscal 23 budget, we put in $5.2 million. We had been saving since 2019 when we had first authorized this, and then the county pulled their money during COVID. We had saved $1.5 million. We got a $350,000 state grant. The TRCC funding, and then we had spent 2.3. So we had $8.3 million. 5.1 of that returned to the CIP fund reserves. It went back into savings. It's not allocated anymore. That's what it means when you're reserves. It's not allocated to be spent somewhere. The TRCC grant left to receive because we asked for some of the money back that we had spent in 2020 was 3.2. So on this, in 2024, I knew we would be constructing, so I put $2 million in the budget so he could continue to construct. And then my amendment has the TRCC revenue and expense back in it so that we can spend it and ask for, and then the 3.1 from reserves. And I'm doing that with all of the CIP fund stuff. With the enterprise funds, a lot of their stuff does roll back, and sometimes they don't ask for it back. They have projects that they're working on, and then they'll ask for that. And then sometimes they didn't spend it all, so they'll just let it go roll into reserve, sit, and wait for the next.
But this also allows us to apply for that TRCC funding for the following year, is that correct?
Well, this
we use
means
this
is
first.
that the TRCC funding that I have in here for that playground, we have already asked for reimbursement, and it is already gone so that we can do the next one. As soon as that playground was done and we had done our match, they got reimbursed. I have received that check actually. For the amphitheater seating, this is an example of, once I give people money for projects, or once you give people money for projects, if they're going to come in less than budget, we don't pull it back. We say, great, now what can you use that for?
Right, and that's what I'm.
And that's what we're doing with the amphitheater. We authorized 200,000. It got returned to reserves because we ordered them, they didn't show up. 23, they show up. It only was 136,000, and so at the end of 23, returned to reserves was 63,000. And now my amendment is saying we're gonna take that 63,787 and we're gonna upgrade the sound system.
Perfect.
So that's kind of the concept of what is happening in the CIP plan.
Also, the 3 million from reserves, could you talk about that?
The 3 million?
Yeah, the 3 million on the theater project.
It's just the balance, right? of
Yeah,
what
it's
was
just the balance of what was returned from Route 4. So the theater has the exact same budget now after this
Oh, okay.
as it did before. At 6:30, it had a budget left. Once this thing goes, that's the budget that will be in fiscal 24.
And we talked about that, I just wanted to make sure that it was
Yes.
clear.
They just roll forward. So, does anybody have any questions? We do have a water fund, new one that the capital, UDOT, you can just talk to water. For some reason, they don't like the fact we have pipes going under some of the bridges. They're gonna pay us to bury a pipe. Well, at least that's their plan, but the bids came in. This is 613, the bid to actually just do the pipe part, over $1 million. So we'll see if they still want it.
They still want.
So I reallocated the TRCC. Anybody have any questions on any of them?
I have one, and
Okay.
I don't know who could answer this, but where it says number 19,
Okay.
Murray Parkway Golf Course, total 45,000. It says number 8, mitigation of potential residential.
They're still studying what to do with the houses that are in the middle of it.
Okay, that's it. That's it.
That's the money
No.
to fix the.
That's it. Okay, perfect. Got it.
And if you want to know for the council members, how they decide which overlays and stuff they're gonna do, a couple years ago, we did a survey and they do it based on not what you guys want, but what that survey says.
Yeah, yeah,
I appreciate it.
as it should. Yes, perfect.
And
Number 30, parks. Letter B, Parks Armory Project Professional Service, 305.
we gave them $500,000 and they have 305 left. I think some of that might be study money,
Oh, perfect. Okay, I'm
but
good.
professional services do the argument.
Okay, perfect.
And then I do have new money, and I have to say this: the streets equipment, I'm giving them $104,000 more from the I under budgeted transportation. It has to be used for street stuff, and their do all truck or does all or something. I don't know what it actually does. But they call it does all.
You don't need anything else?
It's actually gonna come in around 300, and I've got 245 in there. They're ordering it, but it's not gonna be here. But that transportation tax, Trey said that he's doing okay on the roads right now, so we're gonna use it. Usually we don't use it. And the other two new items, coming from the reserves in the water fund, we had some people switch jobs, and so I need to appropriate some more money for salaries because the new person, she was from the city, and our promotion policy is if you get a new job, you get a 5% raise and then whatever step that is. Well, that happened to be more than the step of the person who left that job.
Okay.
So, and that's fine, I mean, that's just how it works.
Yep.
And then we've got the ComDev adjustment, because we did have to pay a severance package for the former director and the new director. Former director was lower in the step than the new director is.
Yeah.
That's And one more thing, we're having a municipal building authority meeting to move forward the rest of the budget for this building.
We still have 26% in reserves.
And at the end of the year, in fact, I haven't sent the email out because I wanna make sure that they don't find any errors in my calculations, but I did send more money to, the CIP fund from the general fund than you had budgeted originally. And I will let you know what that number is and adjusted the budget. I think I adjusted it at least $3 million. Yeah,
Wonderful.
not enough for a
I
splash
appreciate
pad,
this. This was very, I mean,
but it works the same way for police cars.
yeah,
Cars, I just have a great big giant number, I didn't spend it, they're now gonna spend it
Yeah.
on.
no, this is great, Brenda, because sometimes like numbers are just wishy-washy, but this is a great example.
Thank you, Brenda. Moving forward then to number 4, discussion on an ordinance amending section 17.72.070 of the Murray City Municipal Code relating to parking requirements for beauty and barber shops and business and professional offices. We have Bill Markham next.
Hi, everyone. This is the first time I've presented up here in the committee of the whole here, yeah. So,
Don't be scared.
You usually just put them in prime time.
yeah. So this is pretty basic. We have a salon studio up 6200 South, 20th East. They have a really large building with decent parking, but the way that we calculate parking for salon services is 3 spaces for each chair of salon stuff. Salon chair.
A lot.
It
For a
does.
hairdresser.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a lot.
So yeah, it is a lot. And in your packet, you could see I compared it with the rest of the cities. There was only one other city in the valley, and even outside the valley that I could find, that did 3 spaces per chair. And then after talking to that city, they said that it's not on their front burner, but it's something they want to change as well. So,
So you think 3 chairs is too much?
3 spaces.
Oh, 3 spaces?
3 parking
Spaces
spaces for
That would
one
be
chair.
you,
For
your
1 chair?
daughter, and your granddaughter.
Yeah, well, I see no problem in that,
Yeah.
but and I read the material and I'm going, you have 1 under the hood, you got 1 that's getting a perm, and you got 1 that's waiting.
Well, so the one getting a perm would also be 3 spaces. So they're in a different chair.
The walking
But it
station.
could be the one salonist, or whatever you wanna call it.
This is
Could
really
have 3 people
fascinating.
there,
They could, but
because that
but
happens
each,
to me.
Yeah, but each station
Yes,
would have 3 parking spaces. So
Got it.
one in the chair,
3 times
one in the
Got it.
salon thing.
Yeah.
I was just,
But a question I would have as far as the chairs go is, wouldn't it make sense you would have 2 because you would have the stylist and then the person sitting in the chair?
That's what we discussed, kind of with the planning commission. And again, the reason why we went the direction we went is, it makes it easier to calculate overall.
Okay.
It does, it just,
So you-
everything is pretty much.
Space is much more known than
Yeah.
number of chairs
Yeah,
sitting in the
exactly, and
space.
then that requires, Mark to go out and count them and. So it's pretty basic, planning commission voted for it. They did change, I was originally asking for 1 space for 250 square feet, so 4 per 1,000. And they decided, the planning commission wanted to go forward with 1 space for 200 square feet.
Wow, so it like
Five
goes
for-
up to 500.
Yeah, so, yep.
Any other
Any
questions?
question?
no, now that you explained it, yeah, I'm good.
Thank you.
Also, I just want to say one thing about the park thing. My cousin, my really close cousin, they have 2 children with autism on the spectrum. And when we were in Hawaii for my sister's wedding, they came across a sensory park.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't know of any in this valley. So just thoughts.
Wonderful.
There's
There
one in
is one.
Discovery Gateway Children's
okay.
Museum.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
in the
one
museum, but you have to
yes.
go in the museum.
Right.
Not a public.
There
museum.
is one, and I can't remember
Okay.
what city. It's a pocket park.
Oh, okay. I just thought I'd throw that out there. Sorry.
It's a good idea.
Number 5, you have conference reports, and so I believe Diane, Rosalba, and Pam all went to the US conference. And
Jennifer.
so we can begin with that. Who wants to lead off?
I will go.
Yes.
So, the report from the UAMS conference in Jackson Hole, Wyoming was August 13th through the 16th. The biggest takeaway for me from this conference was the statement made to the UAMS members. It was, if you think we're going to be 100% carbon-free, you can't get there without nuclear. And here are some other things that I learned about advanced nuclear energy. Nuclear energy can play a major role in creating a clean energy economy. Advanced nuclear reactor types have inherent technological trade-offs. Advanced reactors have a wide range of different commercial use cases. Continued support for advanced reactor is critical to the future deployment. Nuclear energy is an important clean energy source to help fully decarbonize global energy production. Firm clean energy, variable clean energy, and clean energy storage. This statement and my rereading of the minutes from the Committee of the Whole on Tuesday, August 1st, 2023, brought it to a full circle for me. From the minutes, Jackie Coombs stated the following: natural gas plants still leave a carbon footprint. From the UAMS CFPP, Senior Vice President, who was here, of Business Development, Rich, he stated the following: the intermittent and unpredictable energy is not reliable, and there are not enough batteries to store wind or solar energy for future use. The Carbon Free Power Project, CFPP, is set up as an independent LLC business wholly owned by UAMS. This CFPP would deliver 462 megawatts of carbon-free power. He also stated that 20% of the nation's power now comes from nuclear power plants. In conclusion, listening to the report that was given in the Committee of the Whole and going to the UAMS conference, I have a clear understanding of the CFPP, which is the Carbon Free Power Project.
Okay, do you want to go next?
Sure.
Okay.
I have a way different perspective.
Which is great.
Yeah. I'll first talk about the sessions I went to, which are decarbonization requires innovative solutions. That's probably where Pam got her information from. Also, the Colorado Way to address the climate crisis. And that was really interesting. That was by a woman from the Colorado Energy Office, and Colorado's doing great. Need for resource adequacy. That was from Sarah Edmonds, who is a Western Power Pool. It's from the Western Power Pool. Then integrated resource plan, a roadmap for the future. They had some really interesting and really good sessions. There was also how the world views nuclear, and it's called New Nuclear. That was interesting. There was the one that I found the most interesting was preparing for vehicle electrification.
Yeah.
And what I got from that is that in Utah, the average commuting time is 20.2 minutes. 8%, Utah has 8% electric vehicle, so only 8%. And when it comes to how much it costs, 76 cents goes back to the city for every dollar for an electric vehicle as compared to gas. So that's a really good saving. Anyway, what else did we learn? Oh, long duration energy storage assessment. So I thought it was good. It's always heavy on nuclear because that's what they're pushing. That's their latest. And anyway, it was really quite a good conference. So I'm glad I went.
Thank you. What's up?
Yeah, I will start off, everything was heavy on nuclear, and all the ways we can fund nuclear, which I thought was really interesting.
Didn't talk much about how much nuclear costs
No, it
and
didn't.
why the city should be bearing the burden.
No, and then you're totally right in that. I'm always interested when I go to these conferences to hear where we are in the scale of nuclear and where UAPS is pushing their support. And right now it is very much, this is how much you should love nuclear. Nuclear is great. And the technology for me, as it has been in the beginning, is not really completed, and everybody's in the race for small nuclear. And if I still feel the same, I don't think we as a municipality should be on the hook to pay for it. So that's probably where they came in with like, this is where the funding can come from. What I did get a lot from was a session called The Challenges of Evolving the Electric Market. And Don Roth Lindell was a presenter from Burbank, and just talking about how they are localizing and local sourcing their power grid with solar and solar panels, and also having the real conversation of battery storage. And where is that going to go? Because as much as we want to bring in solar and bring in power generation, where are we storing this power? And what the cost burden is of that, and what the also buyback is. And one thing that stuck out to me was I have it here. We give a road tax for cars who use gas, but we don't have a road tax for cars who are EV cars. And we're having a real big increase of EV cars in the market right now, but we are not taxing them.
We pay a tax on the Tesla.
Road tax. So do you pay a road tax?
Yes.
Okay.
We've started.
Okay, so we are starting.
It's very
It's
expensive.
a pilot program.
It's,
Which is great.
We don't pay gas.
Right.
Yeah.
they assess.
Correct.
It's
So that's good. I mean, they didn't specify whether it's, so that's good to know. So that, I mean, and then even, I think Mike Squires' like presentation was great in the sense that he brought in a panel of different cities of how they are using EVs in their cities and what they are using and how they're using them and how they're charging them and what their charging stations look like. Some, you can power cars at different rates and what that looks like on the grid. I thought what was interesting, I think I put it in here, a car can take up to 40 gigawatts to power.
Yeah, it was like.
Yeah, it was ridiculous.
It was like 2 to 3 homes,
To power one car.
2 to 3 homes, yes.
So that I thought stuck out to me in the sense that it puts a lot of load onto our municipal grids. And what does that look like in terms of the distribution? Yeah. So your car probably takes up a lot. Yeah, so that's also something to think about as we're transitioning into the EV world. But also capitalizing on local like grants and the infrastructure grant and how that you can capitalize on that. That's the biggest takeaway I got. But again, just reiterating, it was really fascinating that almost everything was like, this is how we funded New Scale, or this is how we are doing this, and this is how we're doing that. So
Well,
I would say,
interesting on that one, we heard that guy from Texas
yeah,
said, now you know, I'm from Texas, so efficiency means nothing.
right.
I didn't say that. He
But
said
it's
that.
funny because
How how to present to people in Texas to do their EV. Because he says, I can't go the direction that Oregon or California or Washington does. I have to go total opposite direction. And he was able to do it. He was very successful. I was a little surprised though.
Yeah, so that was Andrew Higgins,
What's that?
Scott Greaves, Bill Boyce, and then they also had Johnny Zine from Jackson Hole, Wyoming, who talked about why they had to implement it because of their population. And a lot of folks there, I mean, an average home in Jackson Hole, Wyoming is $5 million. So, or land, let me rephrase it, the land. And so they had to put in EV chargers, but they've had a really big success with them. So for me, there's a, capitalizing component to this that we can capitalize, but I think overall, even in that system, EVs need we need to look at EVs charging stations a little bit differently and prepare for them.
Infrastructure.
The infrastructure,
needs to
yeah.
be developed.
Yeah.
it's interesting. We report on the last one next
But we're gonna do October 3rd.
October 3rd.
Yep.
And I met actually with there was an EV there. So it was
Yeah.
interesting because it is something they're pushing and it's very interesting, but they're very, very expensive. So it's something we have to plan for sure, because it's coming.
Yeah.
Well, I did have one, is there anything else with regards to this? Because I had one thing I wanted to circle back to the council, their opinion.
Let me say something real quick on this conference. What I thought was the most impressive thing about this conference, I've never experienced it in 12 years, it was real time. Everything that was happening was real time. The more hikes, all those things going up, where it was happening right then.
Yeah.
And I've never experienced that. It's usually something you're preparing for the future or whatever, but it was real time.
Right.
And so everyone there was going through exactly what we were
Well, I think, yeah.
Said that, you said
You're walking.
doing this
Kind of make you feel a
together.
little better after.
Well, I think last year it was like water. I left there, I think, depressed. But I did. I mean, it was very scary to know, like, our grid, our power grid is like, it's volatile. It is very wishy-washy. But the difference is that it can break and what we've learned this year is that it can put us in a situation where we have to come back to our citizens and relook and reevaluate, so.
Jennifer, you had one thing you wanted to add.
I did. They covered the conference amazingly. Like they said, there was a big push for nuclear, like all the things. But the one thing that I really liked was at the very beginning of the concert, they talked about the financial health of public utilities, and they talked about financial management tools you can use for your power department, things such as having financial management policies, how you can keep your rates not low, but like doing smaller increases more often. They talked about the importance of having a reserve for your policies, different rate structures, and just different things you can do to help your residents with their power bill. So I thought that was interesting, but they covered everything.
Yeah.
It was really good.
It was
that
an
one was
excellent
called
concept.
the financial health of public power.
The one thing I did want to ask all of you as I was thinking about and circling back on the stuff we discussed with Parks and Rec is one of the things that we did earlier this year is we had, or it was last year, the survey with Y3, and they did the survey over Y2. Sorry, I met with something 3 at South. But I'm wondering, one of the discussions we had with Y2 was around that they could do, now that they have the pool, they could do another survey. Is it worth spending a couple $1,000s to have a survey done to see what maybe the citizens would want in that area, since it sounds like there's a disparate view on kind of what to do and the pathway forward, and maybe this would be a good chance to get some buy-in and get some perspective.
But they also need to understand the whole thing, like
Don't disagree. I think we would go through it all ahead of time before we would send anything out.
And we have money with them, don't we? Don't we have like a
Oh, we have so
balance?
many, we have so many services that we do, where we have.
Yeah.
That contract was just for 1 year and that contract is expired, so we have to negotiate it, everyone.
But they have all the people that they've already contacted and that
Oh,
sort of
They
thing.
do, yeah. they-
Okay, so it's not like we're starting from ground zero. I just wonder, considering this could be a large expense, I think there's some great ideas, sensory parks, large park, other thing, playgrounds, whatever. It may be worth looking at that, and then we get the pulse, and it's not just us up here, you know, because I have a different experience, Diane has it, and so on and so forth, and we get a full collective sample. Are you open to that, Mayor, and running with that? There was a second, if we want to
Didn't we
stick with.
already do something like that with our master plan in the park,
We did.
We did.
right? We've already done that. I mean, from the last, we just had a master plan right before.
I'm
Yeah.
talking about with regards to how to move forward in the park, do we?
Yeah, we did do that. How many years ago, Kim? 3?
2020 is when it was completed, but I think you're talking about a
Yeah,
specific.
you're talking
Yeah.
about what we just talked
Well,
about.
I'm talking about, you know, what is the direction, considering the cost, considering the water use, and all these things.
Yes, I would want a splash pad, or no, I don't.
No, I don't want
I don't want
that.
this.
Oh, and I would want it to, the retained water to water the park, or I would rather it be part of the pool and pay to get into it. You know, that sort of thing. I think it's worth getting a pulse. We have these tools. Let's use the tools we have. Is the council supportive of that?
They have the.
All the details. I don't know if we'll have all the costs necessarily, because the whole point was to get direction to get costs. But I think there could be some ballpark information given.
Are you really?
Correct, I think exactly.
He'll throw in these things and not, you know.
Completely.
Oh, what they wanted, oh, we didn't ask them if they wanted.
Have any idea how much this money,
Yeah.
they need to have, they're considering.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Okay, perfect. Then you have some direction, Kim, I think, on how to get.
Thank you.
forward. Thank you. With that, we're adjourned until 6:30, in which we will meet over in the chambers for our meeting. Thank you all.